What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Thursday edition of Push in the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. JP, I don't know how to describe it. I was prepping for the show, and for some reason, it feels like the season barely started, but also that it's over. Like it's like feels like it's over for a lot of teams. It feels like I'm going through the slate, and I'm like, okay, well this game doesn't matter. This game doesn't matter. And it's week 12. We have 7 more games left this year, and I don't know why it feels like that, but it does.
It feels like after all of the parity and discussions on parity in the NFL, which I think are cool, I think it's good that there are a lot of teams that are just good and no overwhelmingly great teams. We've sort of weeded out the bad teams, and now we're just getting a lot of games where it's like this could be fun if depending on which team shows up. But we have a lot of, if we're comparing it to like UFC fight cards, there's the undercard, and then there's the main card, and then there's the main event. We got main events, undercard, and we got the rest of the card.
Yeah, we got a lot of rest of the card this week. We'll get to that in a second, though. But first, all season long, up to the playoffs, Cash App is sponsoring our locks. We'll track how we're doing each episode, with the winner being presented with the Cash App Locks trophy at the end of the season. JP, it was your best week. Take a bow, my friend.
We needed that shake back. We needed to get back a little bit. We had a really rough season when it comes to picks, but we just needed one. We needed one. Now it's got stack weeks, stack good weeks.
Kyle's reign atop the standings takes a crash and burn with an 0-4 week. JP goes 4-1. I went 1-3 with a barely cover there. Not my best effort, but we're going to stack weeks. Like you said, I'm bouncing back this week. We'll start with the main event, though. Colts at Chiefs. Chiefs 3.5-point favorites. Vegas can't quit them. 49.5 points is the over-under. And we are in what I would call must-win territory for this Kansas City Chiefs team. It's panic button time. You are 5 and freaking 5. If they go below 500 at this point in the season, this would be unheard of territory for the Patrick Mahomes-led Kansas City Chiefs.
We're entering crisis mode for this team, and not only on the defensive side of the ball, but I think on the offensive side of the ball as well. I was going back and watching the game against the Broncos, and I was just so startled at how stale and how lifeless this Chiefs team feels. And I guess my biggest take for them, and I tweeted it out the other day, the Chiefs should be under center more often. They should use that under center ability that they have. So when I went and looked it up, on using under center runs, because against the Broncos, they would rip off 5-7 yard gains on the ground and then never do it again. The Chiefs, when under center running the ball this season, they are second in EPA per play, third in success rate, 10th in yards per carry, and they're 28th in attempts. Like, they had this ability to lean into that, but it feels like they have caught themselves hanging on to the world of the RPO, where every run gets tagged with a bubble. So in case Patrick Mahomes just doesn't like what he's seeing, he'll just throw it out as a bubble and be like, we couldn't run the ball into that front. But the problem is everybody knows how to defend RPOs now, and there's only so many of those you can do while living in a gun world without a quarterback. And although Patrick Mahomes can run, he is not getting 15 carries a game in designed run situations. That's not how the Chiefs want him to play. So it's really hard to live in a sustainable offensive world while only using RPOs as your easy offense. And it feels like they're learning that the hard way. It feels like this Chiefs receiver group is pretty awful. Like right now, they're not very good, especially against man coverage. They need designed routes. And what the hope was that Rashee Rice coming back would help give them a guy who can just go win against man coverage. But this season, they're 27th in yards per route run versus man. It's also the lowest mark of the Mahomes era in yards per route run against man coverage. So I'm very curious how they match up against this Colts defense who's changed a lot of their stripes since the Sauce Gardner trade.
Yeah, the Rashee Rice usage is almost comical to me. They've turned him into just their running back. He is an extension. They just throw him stick route, all this just gross offense that I thought him coming back, yes, he would do some of that. But I thought it would give them a more complete receiver. But they haven't used him down the football field whatsoever in that offense. And it's like, yeah, you have some specialists like Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy aren't going to do things that Rashee Rice can do. But at least Xavier Worthy should be a little bit more interchangeable, at least can run some other routes besides just down the football field. And it just doesn't seem like it seemed like they're pigeonholing their guys on the outside a little bit too much at this point.
It feels like you said, they have a whole bunch of guys who do one skill specifically well, but even the guys that are multifaceted, like Rashee Rice, like Xavier Worthy can be, they're also shoehorning them into doing one thing really well, which is all the RPOs, the stick routes, the quick stuff, and living and dying with the quick game. And I wonder if part of that is because they don't trust their offensive line. But if you don't trust your offensive line, you spent a first-round pick on Josh Simmons. You paid a lot of money to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. You paid a lot of money to Jalen Moore. Find a combination. Find something that works. If Jawan Taylor isn't playing well, don't play him. Because at this point, you have zero margin for error. And you're going up against a team in the Colts who right now are a top 3 seed in the AFC at this point. So if you want to make the playoffs, you got to start making changes. And I feel like this Chiefs team, and this is not me calling for Andy Reid's job. I don't think that's going to happen at all. But I think they need new ideas in that offense. Everybody who comes through the Chiefs ecosystem, they're always guys who used to work for the Chiefs. Like Matt Nagy came back. You're not getting new ideas in there. You're just getting the same guy who used to work there a few years ago. There have been rumors about Doug Peterson going back. And it's like, you're not doing anything original. Like, if we're comparing it to the Rams, Mike LaFleur, Sean McVay needed Mike LaFleur after Mike LaFleur left the Jets. He needed someone outside of his ecosystem to help change his offense. You needed guys from around the league and know what is going on with modern offense. And I'm not saying the Chiefs' offense isn't modern, but they need to change their stripes. And I don't think they have anybody in that room right now who knows anything outside of the Andy Reid offense.
Yeah, for all those reasons we've outlined, I kind of like the Colts in this. 3.5's a lot against a very good football team. I just go back to the differences of the ground game between these two teams. The Colts are dominant in the running game, and not only just being efficient, but also explosive. They have the second highest rate of explosive runs on running back carries this season. Chiefs, on the other hand, are bottom 10. I just can't believe they didn't make a move for a running back at the deadline, given Kareem Hunt is the least explosive back in the NFL right now. It shows week in and week out. They get him to the second level. That's it. The offense is, like you said, it just feels stale, and the Colts do not. The Colts feel like they can get you any which way. And yeah, I trust the Colts a lot more than the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, I actually like the Colts in this game. I think that with Charvarius Ward coming back from a concussion, even when Sauce Gardner came back against the Falcons, they played man coverage 43.5% of the time. That's the highest this season under Lou Anarumo. They also blitzed 35.5% of the time, second highest under Lou Anarumo. They are changing their stripes. They are going to be more of a man coverage in your face team. That is the Sauce Gardner effect. So if the Chiefs are probably going to win this game, they're going to have to get a Spags masterclass. And can you do that with a pass rush that's sort of non-existent? And I don't know if they can.
Yeah, what we've seen recently, how to get to Daniel Jones or how to slow down the offense is to get to Daniel Jones outside of Chris Jones, who's doing it. Who's, maybe Karlaftis against Braden Smith, maybe, but I don't know if that's even the type of OT he succeeds against. So we shall see. All right, we're going to take a quick break after that. Eagles-Cowboys, Pats, Bengals, the rest of Week 12 slate.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No, that is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
All right, Eagles at Cowboys. First time we've seen these two matchups since that Week 1 close one. Over under in this 47.5. Eagles are 3.5-point favorites, but potentially no Cam Jurgens, no Lane Johnson. They don't look like they're on track to be back yet this week. That's big for the Eagles.
This game feels like it's going to be a slog. Like, this is just going to be a real, grimy November NFC game.
So like every Eagles game the past 2 weeks.
There's going to be an Eagles like masterclass for this season. Like they're going to grind this game down. It's going to be real aesthetically unpleasant. Although like it's not going to have the elements play it in the game because you're playing in Jerry World. Although like depending on when they play this game, you might get like the sun blaring through. But I feel like on the field, this should be the game where Jerry Jones sees the immediate investment of Quinnen Williams. You know, you're not going to have Cam Jurgens, so you got to move Matt Toth to center. You're going up against Tyler Steen and Landon Dickerson, and Dickerson has faced a lot of injuries this season. He's not playing 100%. And what the Cowboys did with Quinnen Williams on the field, they designed their pressure packages around him. They line up in a lot of overload fronts. They'll line up in mugged fronts like they did against the Raiders, and they're hoping to get one-on-ones for Quinnen Williams. He had a 25% pressure rate against the Raiders in his first game as a Cowboy. That's the highest of his season. So I think he's playing at a much higher level, but I also think the back end is probably the healthiest it's been this season. You got Savon Ravel back. You got Deron Bland back. I think this game could be fascinating. Like, I think it could be really intriguing. I still kind of like the Eagles here, but this is going to be a real, like, low-scoring, like, grinded out type of game.
Yeah, we saw that graphic on the screen there. It said the Cowboys allowing and scoring over 29 points per game. That's why the over-under set at 47.5. But I kind of like the under. Like you said, I think this will be a slog. I just don't trust the Eagles scoring on anyone right now, truthfully. And for the Cowboys, I kind of like the Cowboys as well, just because I think that, one, Quinnen Williams has at least changed the biggest weakness of this team. Their run defense, how soft they were up the middle of the football field, is no longer. Two, when you don't have Lane Johnson and Cam Jurgens, that is not the same offensive line. They already couldn't run the ball on most teams, this Eagles offense. They definitely aren't going to be able to do it without those two. And then three, the one thing that we keep saying about the Eagles, if they're susceptible at one position, it's cornerback too. And one team in the NFL is as adept at attacking cornerback too as anyone, is this Dallas Cowboys football team. So at home with everything on the line and the Eagles not as much on the line, I think they pull it out. I think the Cowboys win this one.
So I like where you're going with the Eagles CB2. I do think Adoree Jackson's coming off the best game that he's played in an Eagles jersey against the Lions. I also just have a lot of questions about this Cowboys pass protection unit. I think they kick ass as a run blocking group, but Jalen Phillips has, I believe according to NFL Pro, Jalen Phillips has a 21.3% pressure rate since joining the Eagles. That is unheard of. Like, for the first two games, he has come back and immediately been like their best pass rusher. He's given them a lot of length, a lot of flexibility, and just strength at the point of attack that I think is very similar to what they had in Josh Sweat before Sweat went to the Cardinals. So you just have so many guys up front that can challenge this team in pass protection. And if Vic Fangio really wants to just poke holes in this offense and minimize the effect that Adoree Jackson can have on this game, he just turns up the pass rush. And I just feel like this Eagles team can turn up the pass rush in a very unique way against this Cowboys offensive line. So if they're going to avoid that, I think the Cowboys are going to have to lean on the strengths in the ground game, but they're going to have Jalen Carter back. I just trust this Eagles defense a little too much to pick the Cowboys, but I would not be surprised if this one is we're getting a lot of weird phone calls in the Eagles radio after this game.
It has been wild to me how much Jalen Phillips got traded. The next week he's playing, and he is he's played 98 snaps in 2 games. Usually see a guy traded. I mean, Micah Parsons came to the Packers. He played like 30 snaps week 1. Usually see like a ramp up period. It's like, no, he came in and he's already like every down impact guy. 12 pressures in those 2 games. So yeah, I mean, that is the mismatch, right? If the Cowboys offense, I mean, gosh, the 2 offenses they faced the past 2 weeks in the Packers and the Lions, how did they go stale? The pass rush just took over. The defensive line took over. That is what fuels this Eagles defense. That's why they, invest so heavily into it, is because it is so impactful on a week in, week out basis when you have a unit to that level. So yeah, that is the mismatch. But like, I just for some reason, I just like the Cowboys. I think they can do enough. Just enough, because again, I don't think it's going to take much. I don't like the over at all. I like the under. I think 47.5 is way too much for a game like this. I like the under, so I don't think it's going to take much. And I think the Cowboys outscore them.
I think this game is going to end like 21-17. Like, it's going to be that kind of game where you're not going to get a lot of points. It's going to be real knockdown, drag out. And if the Cowboys are going to win, you're going to need takeover games from Quinnen Williams and immediate return on investment in that. You're going to need to find out, like, this is why you paid Dak Prescott $60 million. We're going to get like a critical Brandon Aubrey, like 65-yarder. They probably could get 75. And we're going to get like the immediate like shot of Jerry Jones, like cackling like Palpatine in the press box.
Low scoring game. Give me the kicker that can hit from 70. There you go. That's all the reason I needed. Thank you, JP. All right. Pats, Bengals. Pats, 6.5 points traveling here to Cincinnati. 50.5 is the over under. But there was this about Joe Burrow, who is now practicing and practiced in full yesterday. Zach Taylor's on Cincinnati radio. He said he's not there yet on Joe Burrow playing Sunday, but didn't rule it out.
This is a bad idea. This is a terrible idea. You're rushing a quarterback back from a toe injury for a team that is well out of the playoffs and also has the worst defense in NFL history. Like, this is not a good idea by any means, unless you're Zach Taylor just trying to save your job. And even then, like, everybody knew, like with Joe Burrow, you could score points, but I don't trust this Bengals team to make smart decisions with their quarterback. And it feels like rushing Joe Burrow back for this team in this moment feels like Zach Taylor trying to save his job against the best interest of the franchise quarterback.
They're 3-7. They're 3-7. I get that 6-4 is your division lead. So you're 3 games back. And we said there's 7 to play. And you have some of that in front of you with the Ravens twice on your schedule. Like, if you could take both those games, big if, you could maybe get back into it. But you're 3-7. You're not a good football team. You have historically the worst defense in the past 40 years in the NFL. It just ain't happening. So, yeah, they're going to play him. But we all know he's going to play like the last 4 games this season. And he's probably going to put like 30 more hits on his frame, and it's just life for the Cincinnati Bengals fans.
If this is probably going to be the game that the Patriots figure out their run game. Like, we're trying to figure out if the Pats iron out their run game, get some sort of efficiency going. This is going to be the game where they do. If it's going to be any game, it's going to be the Bengals. One of my locks this week is TreVeyon Henderson anytime touchdown, because the thought of TreVeyon Henderson against any of these linebackers in space is something that I know Josh McDaniels has had. I think he's coming off a really big week and could be trending towards more carries. I know Ramondre Stevenson's coming back from injury this Sunday, but I just feel like Henderson gives them some juice. And against the Bengals, where they just don't have the ability to tackle in space, I feel like Henderson's going to have a big game.
The Bengals linebackers might be the worst linebacking core I've ever seen in my 13 years now of doing NFL analysis. They're so bad. And now it doesn't help that the defensive line in front of them is not much better, but like, they're rookie. You are starting a second. And here's the other thing. There hasn't really been talked about much, but their second round rookie linebacker kind of got soft bench. He is no longer a starter. You now have Barrett Carter, who was, I believe, a 5th rounder, at least a day 3 guy. He was 4th rounder, excuse me. He's your starter at linebacker, like your Mike linebacker. And I cannot, and he's not good either. It's like he's playing awfully as well. I don't know how he got the start. He's been one of the worst all-around linebackers I've seen on tape this year also. So, like, it's about as bad as you can get. And those were 2nd and 4th rounders that you're hanging your hat on. And there's been almost nothing redeemable from the play this season.
If you go look at the players who have missed the most tackles in the NFL, like half of them are Bengals. That both linebackers, Demetrius Knight Jr. and Barrett Carter, are in that top half. Jordan Battle is in that top half. Geno Stone has been a miss for them in free agency. how do you, and I understand that a lot of the NFL rules and regulations sort of make sure you don't really tackle as much in practice. How are you this bad at tackling? Like, it is a basic, like, fundamental skill for football. I don't understand how you can be so bad at this one specific skill of the sport.
I don't know. Honestly, the one that's the craziest to me is Jordan Battle, because he was not a bad tackler at Alabama. I think you just step in Cincinnati, though, and you forget how to tackle. There's just something in the water. All that being said, I think the Pats are going to roll. Like, it's going to be pretty high scoring. I like the over, and I like the Pats to cover 6.5.
The Pats might hit 50 by themselves.
All right, let's get to Steelers at Bears. Bears 2.5-point favorites here. 44.5 points is the over-under. Aaron Rodgers didn't practice yesterday. May go in a limited fashion on Thursday. Truthfully, I mean, the risk, if you have a re-injury risk to your non-throwing hand, what does he care? Guy's 41. Is he get worried about long-term effects of this? I don't think so. So I would bet, if I had to, on Aaron Rodgers playing, but still probably limited with that left-hand injury.
I feel like there's so many things that, like, if Aaron Rodgers, who already doesn't like getting touched, is playing with a broken wrist, that ball is going to be out in like 1 second. Like, he is not holding on to the ball. Like, this is going to be the most, like, late stage Big Ben 50 passes for 150 yards. We're doing like the grimiest football possible. But it also helps if you have broken wrist playing against this Bears pass rush, which hasn't really been able to get off their own feet. Like, they haven't really gotten consistent pass rush. And you're hoping like Austin Booker will be able to help out in that area when he came back. But it just feels like this team can't really get any consistency from their pass rush group.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is the game where, like, you're fine with Aaron Rodgers playing with a broken wrist because he's still probably not going to get touched anyway. But I don't think that's where, like, the main event of this game is going to be.
Yeah, their defensive line last week against the Vikings, who back at full strength now, but have struggled at times this season. They had a grand total of 7 pressures in that game. Defensive line as a whole. Now, Austin Booker's had some nice reps. He had a rep where he crushed Orlando Brown. He had a rep where he crushed Christian Darrisaw. There's been some flashes, but as you mentioned, the consistency has not been there. For the Steelers, though, they'll make any defensive line look consistent in pass rush if Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw the ball in 2 seconds. I mean, they really struggle. Broderick Jones versus Austin Booker is one of the matchups I really want to see in this game, just because, again, Booker's had some high-level reps in his few games back, but not the down and down out consistency. All that being said, the Rodgers injury, not only that, but like if he wears a cast on his left hand, you're probably not taking him under center. It's probably going to be all shotgun snaps. His ball security more than likely is going to suffer. You're probably going to get a fumble at some point from him or a bobbled snap or something. I just don't love the Steelers offense if you're saying their quarterback's hampered in any way, because I didn't love it even when he was at full strength.
I think on the other side of the ball, this is going to be a really fascinating matchup because Caleb Williams' scramble rate is the second highest in the NFL behind Jaden Daniels, but he also evades sacks like nobody else in the NFL. The issue is going up against the Steelers team. The Steelers don't have a high pressure rate. They are 17th in pressure rate as a whole, as a unit, but they're 7th in sack rate, meaning when they get there, they're getting you on the ground. They're not always going to get there, which is the kind of the effect of, like we've talked about with this group of Nick Herbig, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. They are all speed rushers. Mm-hmm. They are all trying to get to the high side. They're trying to get to the back. They're trying to get to the right shoulder of the quarterback and cause turnovers, cause strip sacks. Where Caleb Williams has been good is spinning out of the back of pockets. But how are you going to spin out of the back of a pocket of a speed rusher going straight to the outside? So I wonder if this is a game where you see more stepping up and out by Caleb Williams. Is that going to be the way that he evades this pressure? I wonder how they play him. Do they have like a guy like Peyton Wilson end up being their spy in this game? Do they have Kyle Duggar sort of that late like robber / like spy coming down from the safety spot? There are a lot of ways that they can attack this team, but I do wonder, can the Bears get a little bit more consistent explosiveness out of their offense, because we've seen it happen at high levels against the Cowboys. We've seen it happen against the Bengals, but it hasn't been consistent enough. So I wonder if this is the game where they can just get some down-to-down consistency, not only from Caleb Williams, but they had a lot of drops against the Vikings. DJ Moore dropped in horrific pass. It was a great pass by Caleb Williams, horrific drop. And he almost dropped another one that he caught with his legs. Burden had another drop. If they can just get some consistency from their receivers, the down-to-down efficiency of this group looks so much better.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, against all odds, though, I'll say, I think they win this one because I think they make it muddy for Caleb Williams. I think that pass rush gets home more than they used to. And I just didn't think Caleb had the best game last week. I mean, obviously, comeback win, not much he had to do with it after that kick return. I just don't think this feels like your classic Mike Tomlin Steelers win. Backs against the wall. We probably shouldn't win this game, and yet somehow they pull it out.
I'm gonna say the Bears temporarily because, if Aaron Rodgers is out there with a cast on his left wrist, that ball's coming out in 1 second. You can't run an offense with a quarterback throwing the ball at the line of scrimmage every single play.
Mm-hmm.
He's not throwing it downfield because he doesn't want to get hit. So I think there's going to be a real grimy, real low scoring game, but I do think the Bears get enough variance on both sides of the ball to make some plays happen and win this game.
All right, let's get to Vikings at Packers. Packers 6.5-point favorites at home with a 41.5-point over under. Some injuries though for the Packers. Josh Jacobs didn't practice yesterday. Not sure if he'll play. I'm guessing they're going to be conservative with him. Carl Brooks, Nate Hobbs, Quay Walker all didn't practice either. So some banged up injuries in that defense. So let's see some playing out.
This is the anxiety bowl of the week. This just feels like two teams that desperately need a win. And even though the Packers got a win last week against the Giants, they need a win. They need some good vibes on this team. I feel like what's going to cause the game to swing is the Vikings pressure packages against Jordan Love and how he manages the pressure. I do think he's been better at identifying pressures this season. His command of the offense has grown a lot, but I do think because of how Jordan Love plays, he drifts in the pocket. He goes backwards to create windows. I wonder how the Vikings are going to use that against him, because we've seen games for Jordan Love against the Vikings where he's had meltdown games against the Vikings. He's had 4 interception caliber games. I always say Jordan Love has the body and the throwing mechanics of Rodgers and the brain of Favre, where he's just going to throw it up sometimes, but he's capable of having those meltdown games. So how, as Matt LaFleur, how are you going to help him sort of manufacture answers against the pressure packages, because the offensive line also hasn't been playing that great?
Last year, I thought they actually did a fairly decent job. They scored 25 and 29 points. Really the reason they lost both those games last year was because their defense. I thought, Sam Darnold really tore up those Packers defenses a year ago. I don't think J.J. McCarthy's doing the same thing.
No.
When your quarterback coach is calling your franchise legend wide receiver a bleeping clown on X, it feels like one of those, we talked about how coaches have a downward spiral of clips in press conferences to lead before they get fired. This feels like the clip before you get benched as a quarterback. You got your quarterback coach calling Chris Carter a blanking clown on X. It's that's step one into what's a potential benching here.
Yeah, and I wrote about J.J. McCarthy yesterday and what's going wrong, and I feel like he just needs to chill out. He needs to relax a lot. It feels like when he plays, of course, we talked about the mechanical issues, the overstriding to his left. He opens up his shoulder. So when you're throwing right-handed, and I think Tom Brady has a YouTube video on how to throw a football. And he talked about how early in his career, he would use his left shoulder and left arm as sort of like the fulcrum to generate force. But he found that when he would swing his left shoulder, it would swing all the way open and he was just spraying passes. So he kept that shoulder straight and threw the ball like using the rotational force through his lower body. And that's where I think JJ McCarthy's really messed up. And where Kevin O'Connell said we're waiting for the cement to dry, it feels like when he says that, he's of course talking about mechanics and fundamentals, but I also think he's talking about your feet have to calm down. Your lower body has to calm down. He does the leg whip thing where he's like putting his entire body into a 5-yard speed out. And part of me is like, maybe that's mechanics and maybe that's him trying to throw the ball 100 miles an hour when he doesn't really have to, because he has average tools. He has enough for an NFL arm. He is enough as a runner, as an athlete. But it feels like he saps himself through bad mechanics, and it turns everything like that, makes everything wrong. So it's really tough. And I think JJ McCarthy had a quote during the week where he's like, I have to rewire everything. And that's not a great sign for a quarterback to say in week 12 after an entire year of having time to rewire yourself. But he just needs to calm down.
Any adult male who's gone through a midlife crisis and picked up golf as a result and tried to change their golf swing knows exactly what JJ McCarthy's going through, because it's a very similar actual mechanism of what he's doing. Going from a stride to more of a rotation is like what a lot of people struggle with in a golf swing. And that thing about staying closed with that front side to keep you more on balance and to keep you more accurate is exactly what you're supposed to do in a golf swing. If you fly open with your front shoulder, you can hit the golf ball and it can give you a little more power, but at the detriment of your consistency, swing to swing or throw to throw in football. And so the great irony of the quarterback coach calling out franchise legend Chris Carter is like, dude, you're the one who's screwing up right now.
Yeah.
You're the one. Like, it's your fault, actually.
Like you yelling at Chris Carter about like saying like Chris Carter's a clown. You've been training JJ for 15 plus years. This is your fault.
That was incredible. And then he put out a whole statement and he deletes the statement.
And
just the classic PR nightmare.
The subplots to this Viking season feel like a telenovela. You have Carson Wentz first, like breaking his body to throw interceptions. Again. You got the Max Brosmer experience in the preseason. Justin Jefferson's throwing helmets on the sideline. The Vikings defense is very quietly sort of like the injuries are catching up to them, although I think Jalen Redmond has been awesome this season. And on top of all of that, the young quarterback that you traded up twice to go get just has not worked out yet. This feels like they have to get a win here or we're calling it quits on this season.
Well, then also you got to add in the Darnold, Daniel Jones storylines too, where it's like you're looking over your shoulder like, what we didn't appreciate it. All that being said, the Packers better cover this 6.5 points. They need, like you said, they need a game where it looks good, because after that week 1 shellacking of the Detroit Lions, this team is 2-7 against the spread since. It was, we talk about usually like the week 1 aberration. And it wasn't an aberration, but it was an aberration because it was the only time really all year that it seemed like they played a complete game on both sides of the football. And it's just, this team has not looked dominant like that. And I mean, Commanders game, kind of, we figured out the Commanders were not who we thought they would be, but they haven't played a great game since. This needs to be a great game for the Packers.
This game, I think one of the coolest matchups is going to be Micah Parsons versus Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill. Worth the price of admission in itself. I think the Packers win this game because I think they do enough to turn JJ McCarthy over. He's thrown an interception in every game that he has played in this season. And I just feel like if you have JJ McCarthy playing from behind, and if you can keep Jordan Love away from pressure from this Vikings defense, I think they should cover this pretty easily.
All right, let's get to Seahawks at Titans.
Oh, God.
Seahawks 13.5 point favorites. 40.5 points is the over-under. I truly can't believe it's that low. I'll just say this felt like a 16.5 pointer. I kind of still love the Seahawks in this one. But a 13.5 point spread with a 40.5 point over-under is a comical number.
So in our show notes, the first thing I wrote was Mike McDonald versus Cam Ward. Good God. That just feels like, man, if you're Cam Ward, prayers up to you, because this is going to be a game where you're constantly getting hit. And the thing that I love the most about this Seahawks team, they don't blitz a lot. They don't have a high blitz rate. But when they blitz, they're first in the NFL in pressure rate, meaning when they send them, they're getting home over half the time, which is in a pretty insane number. And I just feel like Cam Ward doesn't have enough around him to make something shake against this team that's loaded at every single level. This Seahawks defensive line is so cool because they are all so selfless. Like you see Leonard Williams like taking on double teams to help Ty Okada come up and make a play on the ball. You're looking at Byron Murphy playing well as a nose tackle in this defense. You have like Boye Mafe, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Derek Hall just constantly like hammering, pulling guards, pulling tight ends. It's so cool watching them play. And Mike McDonald does such a good job of just throwing so many different looks out there. Against the Rams, there was a play where the Rams were in 11 personnel and had Jordan Whittington line up at fullback. The Seahawks matched that with dime, but they were in a 6-1 front, meaning that I think Nick Emanwari and Drake Thomas were lined up on the edges as the edges in their 6-1 front. And I just thought that was insane. So I have two locks for this game. One is Seahawks minus 13.5, and then Cam Ward's under in passing yards, because this game is going to get ugly.
I went back and looked when Cam was at Incarnate Word to see if he had played, like a Texas or like a way low. He never did. But that's what this feels like. This feels like Incarnate Word going to Texas for that like week 2 just fluff game as like a little warm up. That's unfortunately what Cam Ward's going to be dealing with facing the Seahawks team. Yeah, not really much else to talk about in this one. All right. Browns at Raiders. Raiders 3.5 point favorites. And with Shedeur Sanders starting, Vegas has set the over-under to 36.5. Vegas not believing in the Shedeur hype.
So I have to get something out here about the whole Shedeur mania thing.
Let's go.
This is going to be a very interesting and very important data point for Shedeur as a viable like NFL starting quarterback. He has the full week of reps as the ones. He has the trust of Kevin Stefanski, naming Shedeur the starter early in the week. Like this wasn't we're going to hold on and see if Dylan Gabriel can go sort of thing. This was a Shedeur starting. Like he said that by like Tuesday. So he has the full week. He's going up against a defense that isn't that great. Like they have one high caliber pass rusher where you can sort of like send slide protection towards him. I feel like this is going to be a very good data point to see if Shedeur can be a quality starter. I think last week it was awful, horrendous. There were a couple throws in there that I thought were pretty cool, but he came in on short notice without any reps with the ones, because you don't really give backups the reps with the ones, which makes sense because you want to give all the reps to the starters. This is going to be a very, very good indicator of what Shedeur Sanders can be. And I'm honestly excited for it. I thought pretty highly of Shedeur coming out of Colorado. I think he can be a very pinpoint accurate passer when he's protected. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you though, because he's not a guy. I think the way he got talked about in the draft process, and there were obvious weaknesses to his game that made you worry about, week 1, can he start? But he's played a ton of football. He started for 4 years in college in pass-heavy offenses each year. It's not as if the game should be moving too fast for him. So similar to, like we said, the other quarterbacks that have hit the ground somewhat running in their rookie seasons, even Jackson Dart this year, who was a 4-year starter in college, like playing a lot prior to the NFL helps you. But what we saw last week was like not a guy ready to start in the NFL. That just wasn't. And again, maybe it was that he didn't get starter reps, or reps with the ones, whatever. But that was not a guy ready to play, the rest of this season as the starter. That's probably why they haven't moved off Dylan Gabriel, despite Gabriel looking like ass himself. So I'm not saying Gabriel looks like a starter either. So I'm very intrigued because this, like you said, Raiders are bottom 10 in EPA per player allowed. They have one real pass rusher that you can kind of game plan around. And so we should have time or should know where the pressure is going to be coming from. I'm just excited to see what happens, truthfully. I have no prediction either way. I'm just excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I did have one. I think one of my locks is the under in this game.
Dude, it feels like an under still.
One of my locks isn't the under in this game. It's not the under in this game. It's an under in another game. But I do think that there might be more sacks in this game than completions, given how the Raiders' offensive line looked against the Cowboys. Now you got to play the Browns. And again, Myles Garrett is on pace for one of the most impressive seasons I've ever seen on a 4-13 team. Like, he is on pace right now. He has 15 sacks. And there's still we still got 5-6 games left. That's insane. Like, he could break the sack record this year on a 4-13 team. And I think he might break the sack record against the Raiders.
I do wonder, in practice this week, Shedeur going against Myles Garrett, was Myles just like every single play? Did he sack him every single play? Was there a play that he didn't sack him? Do you even play Myles Garrett in practice if Shedeur's out there? I think you just...
I don't think you play Myles if any of those quarterbacks are out there, honestly.
It's like he's just going to murder him. All right, yeah. I have no take on who's going to win this game. I would hope the Raiders win this game, actually. But, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to the rest of the games.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Giants at Lions. Lions 10.5-point favorites. 49.5 points is the over-under here. Jackson Dart, obviously the big injury data points. Limited. No clue if he's going to play yet this week. Jameis kind of moved the ball, though. Jameis is kind of exciting, as Jameis does. I think this game, though, this feels like one of the classic Lions get-right games that they did. And the week 2 game against the Bears, where they just deluge every drive. Halftime, it's like 35-0 or 35-7. It's just like, okay, nice. That's what this game feels like for the Lions, in my opinion.
The Lions are so good after losing a game. Like, they just house the next team. But I do think there's going to be an interesting data point for the Lions offensive line, because this Giants defensive line is very good as a pass rushing unit. They didn't have practice on Wednesday, but they had an estimated practice report. And on the estimated practice report was every single starting offensive lineman for the Lions. Taylor Decker was on there. Vinay Sewell was on there. Graham Glasgow was on there. Tate Ratledge, Miles Frazier, and a partridge in a pear tree. In addition, Terry Arnold was on there. Brian Branch was on there. Kirby Joseph was on there. Marcus Davenport was on there. DJ Reed obviously was on there. Who else? How many guys do you have left? And this happens every year with the Lions. It feels like the Lions and the Bills are always at week 12, and they're playing AJ Klein at linebacker because there's just nobody else left to play football for them. So I think the Lions shake back in a big way in this game, but I do wonder how healthy their offensive line is.
Yeah, that was the one thing last year where they stayed healthy up front. For all the injuries that happened to that team, the offense stayed relatively healthy. This year, it's been both sides of the ball, and that's why they have twice as many losses this year as they had all last season already. So, all that being said, it's like this Giants team hasn't been healthy all season. Your quarterback's not even healthy, And the defense is the worst run defense in the NFL this season. Worse than EPA, even worse than the Cincinnati freaking Bengals, which doesn't seem possible. But it is. And so for all those reasons, Lions they might even have to pass. They're just going to run the football all day long.
Yeah, this should be a Lions, like real Dan Campbell style of game. We're just going to run the ball and score 40 points, and everybody's going to go home.
All right, let's get to Jags at Cardinals. Jags only a 2.5-point favorite here. 47.5 points is the over-under. Some injuries to note, though, mainly on the Cardinals side. No Marvin Harrison Jr. or Emmy DeMercado in this one. Kelvin Beachum, Baron Browning, Will Hernandez, Will Johnson, Jonah Williams all didn't practice yesterday. So to count, that's 2 starting offensive linemen, starting pass rusher, and starting corner.
Yeah, that's not great. And I think that's tough for the Cardinals offense, especially, but not having Will Johnson, the splits for this team with Will Johnson on the field versus off the field are drastic when it comes to pass defense. And although I do have I think the Cardinals defense is very fun. They are 22nd in rushing success rate. And I think a lot of it is because of the way they play their defense. They play incredibly light. They want to spin Budda Baker into the box. And where I think that the Jaguars can affect them is by using a lot of split zone like they did against the Chargers, where you have the eyes moving one way with the linebacker splitting back across with the zone action going away from the split. And you just have Bashal Tutin just ride the wave. That's all he did against the Chargers. He would ride that wave of the motion of the tight end splitting back across, and he just followed the tight end to like 6 yards a pop. It wasn't super explosive, but I feel like Bashal Tutin is on the brink of breaking like 50-yard run. Against the Chargers, he just kept getting his feet caught. So I feel like he's on the verge of a real big explosive. And I think that might happen against Arizona. So I think the Jaguars win. They should win this one. But I think the Cardinals keep it tough.
Tutin's interesting because, he ran a 4.32 at the combine. He has elite speed. He runs in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. Like, he goes and craves contact. Remember that one play? It was earlier this season. It might have been like a swing pass where he like ran into a guy being blocked. Do you remember that?
He ran into Hunter Long, who was trying to block for him.
It was wide open. He just runs at it. It's an interesting dichotomy because, most speed guys, they don't like getting touched. Whereas Tutin's like, he almost to a fault tries to run through contact, wants to play physical. When it's like, dude, you run a 4.32. Sometimes just
run past him.
Yeah, go find some space and just run away. But yeah, I love the Jags in this one. This is one of my locks, not only because the Cardinals are super banged up, but I just think matchup wise, I think they're going to move the football offensively. I think they have very, they have a plan of attack in the ground game now that is going to be consistent. And I really like, I think they're just going to win handily against the Cardinals.
Something else to note is Trevor Lawrence looked a lot more comfortable against the Chargers than he has this season. And I think it's because this was second game with Jacoby Myers as in the offense. And Jacoby Myers, we said at the trade deadline, he would bring some normalcy to this receiver room. He's gritty, tough over the middle of the field, and catches everything. I think that's the type of receiver that Trevor Lawrence thrives best with. It's not the guy who's going to be like super explosive downfield. It's the tough middle of the field guy. It's why Marvin Jones worked so well with Trevor Lawrence, because Lawrence loves throwing speed outs and digs over the middle. And you could tell with Jacoby Myers, there's just so much more comfort throwing him the ball over the middle of the field. There was a play where, do you remember the alligator arm interception Brian Thomas Jr. had against the Bengals that started the hospital ball discourse? Jacoby Myers ran the same route on the same concept and ended up going for 15 yards in the first down because Jacoby Myers ran it at the right depth and made himself available to catch the ball and then actually like caught the ball. So that's just sort of differences. It's helpful when you have a receiver who wants to run routes over the middle of the field. So I think Trevor Lawrence is playing a lot more comfortably with Jacoby Myers as his receiver. I think you're going to get Brenton Strange back eventually. And now it feels like you're starting to become more of a complete like adult offense.
All right, let's get to Jets at Ravens. Ravens 13.5-point favorites. 44.5 points is the over-under here. This is a Tyrod game because Aaron Glenn can't make up his mind. I don't think it matters, truthfully. The Ravens, though, the interesting thing, Lamar not practicing kind of been the wave for him since he's come back from injury, trying to protect him throughout the week, but he hasn't exactly played great with not practicing. I think this is a game where you want to see Lamar and this passing attack really get on track if they're going to make a run at the AFC North.
One of my locks in this game is the under in this one because I don't think the Jets are going to be able to score or move the ball. But I also think this Ravens offense, even with Lamar coming back, and I've said this Ravens team is going to catch the Steelers and win the North. They haven't really inspired a lot of confidence in that. Like they haven't really like overwhelmed the team since Lamar came back outside of like the Dolphins. And the Dolphins were on the brink of like firing their GM in that game. But I just feel like this Ravens offensive line is one of the least physical units in the NFL. And it's crazy because Daniel Falele is like 370 pounds, but their guards, Voorhees and Falele, never actually hit anybody. So you give up a lot of pressure up the middle. I think Ronnie Stanley's clearly kind of, I'm not going to say he's washed, but I do think he's lost a step a little bit. And Rosengarten has been up and down. And that's why it feels like Lamar Jackson has felt a lot more skittish in the pocket. He's done a lot more weird stuff. The interceptions against the Browns were it was pressure. Like pressure got to him. So I feel like they need to develop more answers. They are an outside zone based team out of heavy personnel. So if you just lean on outside zone against the Jets, don't get into obvious pass rush situations because they still have Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson who can affect the passer. I feel like this game is probably going to end like 24-0.
I don't think the Jets score much. Truthfully, they're pretty hapless right now. Although I am very intrigued just to see Adonai Mitchell play week in and week out. He's the most exciting receiver because every target it could end in a touchdown. It can end in an interception. It can end in a fumble, a drop. He has the highest range of outcome per target of any wide receiver in the NFL. And it just makes for exciting football watching. Not if you're a Jets fan. It's very infuriating, I'm sure, if you're a Jets fan. But as a impartial observer, electric.
He's like Dontavion Wicks in the way where like he does everything that you want a receiver to do until you have to do the number one thing a receiver has to do.
The crazy thing is he did not drop a lot of passes at Texas. Now he was very much, when you watch his tape, you're like, he's not in the right spot. Like so he does a lot of freelancing, did a lot of freelancing at Texas, but he didn't drop a lot of passes. Now he did early on in his career at Georgia, and it's why he didn't see the field much and then eventually transferred. But I didn't think it would be this bad, but it has been bad for him. I saw, this is going to be terrible podcast content, but I saw someone quote tweet Daniel Faalele's basically like him originally going to IMG Academy. It was because he was a Australian rugby player or whatever and massive and like came over to IMG. It's like originally him committing to IMG in high school with the Interstellar Matthew McConaughey meme looking back in time being like, no.
It has been a roller coaster for Fale this season.
Because I mean, like it's been that bad. Like he's just does not have the foot speed to be. I thought definitely didn't have it to play tackle. Guard, he still hasn't looked like it either there. And it's just I worry about that, and especially he is a 6'9" guard. 6'9" guards don't exist for a reason. It's hard to play in the trenches when you're that tall. All right, let's get to Falcons Saints. Saints favorites. When's the last time we said that? 1.5 point favorites. 39.5 points is the over under here. The reason they're favorites. No Drake London. He has knee injuries week to week, not serious. Although the Michael Penix knee injury is serious. Another partially torn ACL for him. That makes a third. And when you have that many ACL reconstructions, you worry about scar tissue and just knee soreness, things of that nature. Things just like pop up when you are reconstructing ACLs that many times in a guy's knee, which was, I mean, you'd be lying if you didn't think this was a concern with a guy who had torn it twice already in college, given his frame. You know, everyone remembers talking about Teddy Bridgewater's skinny knees, but like, it's a real thing when you have 300 pounders landing on your knees, when you are built with skinnier lower halves, just leads to more injuries. And unfortunately, seeing that with Michael Penix now.
I don't know if this Falcons brain trust is very trustworthy when it comes to injuries, because Raheem Morris said it was a bone bruise, and that's why he missed time early. And then he came back with a partially torn ACL. You have Darnell Mooney, who Raheem Morris said like was dealing with like a shoulder injury, like a nagging shoulder injury, actually broke his collarbone on the first play of training camp. So him saying Drake London's going to be week to week, Drake London's leg might have actually just fallen off.
Complete knee dislocation.
He might have actually torn every single ligament in his knee, and we would never know until like the end of the season when Drake London says like he's playing on like 2 torn MCLs somehow. So I don't know what's going to happen in this game. This is the Kirk Cousins game. Did you see they changed the music at Falcons practice the other day?
I didn't. Well,
with Kirk Cousins. So according to Mark Ramondi, who is the beat reporter for the Falcons for ESPN, Kirk Cousins, he submitted the playlist for Falcons practice. So first up was NSYNC, followed by Good Charlotte.
Oh no.
Then Yellow Card, then All American Rejects, and then Creed. That's the most Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is back. Like,
that's his middle school playlist.
He said felt like he was at like a Warped Tour. It felt like, you know how everybody says like once you hit like November, you start hearing "All I Want for Christmas Is You" by Mariah Carey. Mm-hmm. As soon as Kirk Cousins comes back, all you hear is like All American Rejects.
Yeah,
like it's like an omen.
Oh gosh, I mean that's just too perfect. I do hope he plays all right, because I want him to stay in the league longer, because Kirk Cousins is very entertaining to me. And plus, he's just going to take our jobs. He's immediately going to get into an NFL booth, or he's immediately going to be that guy. But I don't, given what we've seen from already, I'm not too bullish on it happening, him being good in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just going to be an ugly game. Like every game Kirk Cousins has played in, instead of Michael Penix, has just been the most awful football.
Yeah, it's tough to watch. Are the Falcons, are they the most disappointing team in the NFL this season in terms of like expectations versus result?
I think so. When it comes to talent, like, and the stuff that they did this season. And again, we're going to keep going back to that pick they traded for James Pierce Jr., but you do that under the expectation that you are making the playoffs. James Pierce is just another piece to add to a playoff team. And now they're 3-7, and you've answered none of the questions you had going into the season. Is Michael Penix your guy? You don't know that now, because he has another torn ACL and also was sort of up and down this season. The youth on the team, they've sort of worked out. Xavier Watts has been great. Jalen Walker has been awesome. James Pierce still looks like a developmental pass rusher and has 2.5 sacks. And you're potentially giving the Rams a top 5 pick. I tweeted it out yesterday. This is going to somehow end up with like Dante Moore becoming a Los Angeles Ram, and Sean McVay is going to live forever. So it just feels very Falcons for this season that was supposed to be the culmination of a playoff unit led by an offense that realized all the first round talent that they had. And now you're leaving it with more questions than you had going into this season.
Yeah, it's got to be either them or the Vikings. I think the Vikings, when you were 13 or 14-3 last year, and to now be 4-6, and to have your quarterback look that way he does, It's one of those two, because you just what could have been the start of something special looks like a true, like, damn, we have no clue if we're ever going to get back to that level.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. After that, we're going to hit all the primetime games: Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Little Locks recap.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
Bucks Rams 6.5-point favorites. 49.5 points is the over under. The Bucks may, and I emphasize may get back Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin this week. They're practicing in a limited fashion, so we'll see. But this is a great Sunday Night Football game.
There are going to be a lot of points in this game, and there's never been a team that needed its guys back more than the Buccaneers.
Yes.
They need some juice. They need something. Baker Mayfield needs his guys back, and I also think Emeka Egbuka needs Chris Godwin back.
Yes,
because he needs someone to take some of the attention off of him, where he can thrive a little more as the second star. They need Bucky Irving back for his contact balance and his ability to make people miss, both as a runner and receiver. And they have really missed that part of their offense. They've missed the yards after the catch. They've missed some of the explosiveness, where now everything is being created through Baker Mayfield and his ability to win as a scrambler. You don't always want to rely on Baker Mayfield as a scrambler, because Baker Mayfield's gotten hurt before, scrambling far too much. So I think they need those guys back in a big way. But I do wonder, can this Bucks team limit explosives?
I don't think they can. They're just it's because Todd Bowles, for all his love Todd Bowles. I think and you saw it last week against the Bills. You had Anthony Nelson on a wheel route against James Cook. He gets a little too in his bag with coverages, when I think they have the talent to be more of a static coverage team, so to speak. Like, they don't have to be super exotic and aggressive. I think this is a very talented defense, but the results haven't been there. And then on the flip side, offensively, week 7 on, 26 in EPA per play. I mean, it's flat out bad. And this game in particular, you need Bucky Irving back. He is your pass catcher out of the backfield, that if you get him matched up on the linebackers for the Rams, it's a win. Just another option in this receiving game is necessary. And then I think you're also, to a degree, feeling the loss of Liam Cohen. I think he cobbled things together a lot better in terms of easy offense, whether it's screen game, or things of that nature, to propel the Bucs when they didn't have their full complement of weapons. That just has not been there this season.
Something to note for the Rams defense, no Quentin Lake in this game, who has been awesome for them this year in the nickel. And I do just want to sort of give the Rams secondary their flowers for their performance against the Seahawks. They really didn't do anything like super innovative. They played a lot of quarters, played a lot of quarter half, as they normally do. They played a lot of base still against the Seahawks, but that secondary played incredible. Emmanuel Forbes has been really good since coming over and taking that starting job for the long haul. I think this defense fits his ability and his eyes and off coverage, because you don't have to play him in press. Cam Kinchins has been awesome. Like, I thought Cam Kinchins was going to be a steal entering when he was drafted. I thought he was a great fit for the Rams in terms of what he does. And then Cam Curl sort of occupies that box like robber role really well, but their secondaries played really well. I think Chris Shula and Aubrey Pleasant have really coached them up to a high level. So if Godwin isn't 100% and he's on limited snaps, I just wonder how the Bucs are going to consistently create explosives.
I just can't believe the Commanders gave up on Forbes after a year and a half as a first rounder. And as much as I feel like in the draft conversation, we talk about scheme and scheme fits a lot. I feel like NFL teams don't always get it right, though. I feel like they don't always draft scheme fits for their particular scheme correctly. I feel like they're not always that great. I go, Forbes, I think, is one, and Kyer Elam to the Bills was another, where it's like that actually wasn't the scheme fit that I saw from that guy. And then some of them didn't work out. But this guy was the 16th pick in the draft. He was obviously very talented. And one of his biggest weaknesses is one of the few solvable things at the NFL level. You can get stronger. Now, when you have a build to his degree, when he was coming out like 160, right? Like you can't get that much stronger, but you can get a little stronger. And I think you're seeing it now. He's listed at 180 now after coming out right in the 160s. So he has put on some weight. Past 3 games, he has 3 pass breakups and 2 picks. Like he's, I'm not saying he's an elite corner. I'm not saying shutdown corner, but he's a serviceable corner. And if you go to the Commanders, look at their cornerback unit, it's like Forbes.
I feel like Emmanuel Forbes is a better fit for Dan Quinn's defense now than he was for Ron Rivera when he was coaching the defense. I feel like he's a better fit for Dan Quinn. But it goes to show you that development isn't linear in the NFL. It takes time finding the right people to believe in you. And Emmanuel Forbes has been really good for them. I hope he continues to play well. I think the Rams win this game. I'm curious I think Rob Havenstein also might not play in this game, a Rams right tackle. So if the Bucs are going to win, there's got to be a pressure game. And can they get enough pressure without Kalijah Kancey being that fulcrum or engine of their pressure packages? I don't know, because we've seen, like we saw in the Seahawks game, you can affect Matthew Stafford if you get close to him. It's not exactly like sacking him or blitzing him, but you could tell he was throwing off his back foot a lot and he just wasn't comfortable. So can the Bucs actually make him uncomfortable in the pocket? If they can't do that, I feel like they're going to give up a lot of explosive plays.
Yeah, I want to see Jared Verse versus Tristan Wirfs.
Oh, yeah.
Byron Young versus Luke Gedeke. That is must-see TV, that matchup when the Bucs have the football. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, though. And while I think they keep it close, while I think 6.5 is just a little too much, I think they run the ball effectively in this game, and that's where they make hay. And I would pick him if if you told me he's for sure healthy, but I doubt they're going to rush him back for this game if need be. So I bet the Rams win, but I think the Bucs will cover. All right, Monday Night Football. Panthers, 49ers. 49ers 7-point favorites, 48.5 points is the over-under. The Christian McCaffrey revenge game. First time he's actually played the Panthers in a 49ers uniform. The Panthers' record since trading him, 1937.
Ooh. There was a point during the season where I thought this was going to get flexed out. I'm going to be honest. I thought this was a flex game. I did not think they were going to actually leave this game in Monday Night Football, but now we're looking at 2 teams that are above 500.
Playoff implications.
Like this is a playoff entry game, which who would have thought for the Panthers? And I do want to give a lot of credit to Dave Canales, who has continued to just find ways with this team. With this Carolina Panthers team that isn't super talented yet. They don't have overwhelming talent. I think Ejiro Evero has I feel like Evero's sort of hot and cold as a defensive coordinator, but you've gotten the most out of this team this season. And I think Bryce Young has been hot and cold, but where they found their identity is through the run game. And I think that's going to be what helps them in this game against the 49ers, because I just don't think the 49ers have enough bodies up front to play the run as well as they want to, especially without Fred Warner. And then on the other side of the ball, you have Brock Purdy coming back, and Purdy without pressure being in his face, can get the ball to George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and hopefully Ricky Pearsall. So low-key, I kind of feel like this game might turn into like a high-scoring one, but I'm curious on what each defense does to make the quarterback uncomfortable.
I think the great irony of this being the Christian McCaffrey Bowl is that Rico Dowdle is wiping the floor with Christian McCaffrey this season in terms of effectiveness. Like he has been the 4th ranked running back this season in terms of total EPA. I mean, he's been fantastic, and he's kind of what we say about, you don't have to pay top dollar. You don't have to draft a running back in the top 10 to get an effective running game. You can go out and pay $2.5 million on a 1-year deal, and Rico Dowdle could be a top 5 running back in the NFL this season. He's been awesome. just awesome every step of the way as a just bruiser of a runner up the middle. And they've, to go back to Dave Canales and what he's been so good at, is like saying, hey, this is, this wasn't what we expected to be. We were hoping we'd be this high-powered passing offense. Bryce Young would lead us to wherever we wanted to go, but kind of flipped the script mid-season and just said, we're going to run power. We're going to run inside zone. We have this big-ass offensive line, and we have a bruising running back behind it. That's going to be where we win, and they're 6-5. If they win this game, they're right in the thick of the NFC playoff picture.
If they win this game, how seriously do we consider Dave Canales for Coach of the Year? Because again, like, they'll be 7-5. They have both Bucs games left on the schedule. Like, who knows? Like, clearly they've done best as the underdog. Like, how seriously do we consider Dave Canales if they can get this win and the Panthers remain in the playoff picture?
I mean, if they make the playoffs, I think they'd have to make the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs, he's top 3 at worst. I think it's probably going to go to either Vrabel, Steichen, or Sean Payton, if I had to bet, because one of those 3 is going to get the 1 seed. And no one predicted any of those 3 to get the 1 seed. So either them or Mike McDonald if the Seahawks get the 1 seed in the other. But if they make the playoffs, shoot, I mean, if they win the South, which is still, like you said, they have 2 Bucs games. If they can win those 2 games, they're winning the South. If they can win the South, we'll talk about it, but it has been, given their talent level and given the fact that Bryce Young's not playing like we thought and hoped Bryce Young would be playing like, they got to be right in the mix.
Both these teams are 30th and 32nd in pressure rate when it comes to pass rush. The 49ers this season have a 25.5% pressure rate as a defense. The Panthers have a 28% pressure rate. There are going to be clean pockets in this game. There are going to be some real pristine looking pockets. So I expect this one to be a little bit of a shootout.
Yeah, I kind of like the over. I am not betting against Carolina. I think every time I've gone against Carolina in this season, I've lost. They're actually 7-4 against the spread. So I have no interest in betting against Carolina anymore. But I do think, like you said, points will be scored.
Yeah, that -7 is big for the 49ers this season.
All right, let's get to Bills at Texans, the final game, Thursday night football here. Bills 5.5-point favorites on the road, over unders 43.5. And the big news here, no CJ Stroud. This will be another, long neck Davis Mills game. No Dalton Kincaid either for the Buffalo Bills. I don't see how the Bills don't cover 5.5. They have to win this game. And if the Bills don't cover 5.5, the under is for sure hitting. So if you like the Texans this one, you got to bet the under as well. You got to parlay with the under, in my opinion.
The amount of stupid shit Josh Allen is going to do in this game is going to be insane. Like the last time the Texans played the Bills, Josh Allen went 13 for 31 against the Texans. And that was with the full complement of receivers. Now you might not have Keon Coleman, who might also be a healthy scratch. And if Keon Coleman is a healthy scratch, it might be over for Keon Coleman in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Kincaid not going to play, and you're going up against the number 1 defense in the NFL. Like, it just feels like the Texans have so many guys they can just hammer you with. Like, Will Anderson Jr. is playing really well this season. Danielle Hunter is amazing. And then I guess my big question is, how much man coverage do the Texans play, knowing that Josh Allen can scramble and create chaos? But they also have the obvious advantage when they play man coverage. Like, you don't have to worry about much. Like, you can risk Josh Allen scrambling and doing the chaotic stuff because none of the receivers are really going to get open. But in man coverage, they like throwing to James Cook. They like throwing to Ty Johnson a lot. Do you trust Azeez Al-Shaair or Henry To'oTo'o in those situations? So I'm curious on how D'Amico Ryans and I believe Matt Burke, how they defend this Bills team that really, like, they want to run the ball, but I worry about them running the ball against this team. And then, like I said, the the passing game just hasn't really been there as consistently as you hope. So I kind of feel like this game goes under.
Yeah, I like the under a lot. Because also we've discussed a lot. How do you beat this Bills defense? I mean, there's a lot of ways to beat this Bills defense, but they are in particularly very slow. Where's the speed coming from the Texans, right? Jalen Noel, it looked like he was something when Stroud was out there, but it's been completely basically shut out of the offense with Davis Mills at quarterback. So there's not really a guy who I worry about exposing the lack of speed for this Buffalo Bills team.
I agree with you there, but I also worry about the effort Nico Collins down there somewhere portion of the offense.
Always potential.
Because even in the game last year, like the Texans offense didn't play that great, but they got monster plays from Nico Collins. You got a big touchdown from Nico Collins. You got huge 20-yard completions. If Nico Collins just decides to take over this game, and Davis Mills has shown he will play buddy ball with Nico Collins, I worry about their pass coverage a little bit.
All that being said, this is a game that I would put in must-win status for the Houston Texans, sitting at 5-5, because 5-6, you're just too far out of it, given how difficult their schedule is down the stretch. And again, at some point, these are the kind of teams you got to beat if you are going to sneak back in.
I feel like my brain says the Bills are going to win this one, but something in my gut just like doesn't feel right for the Bills offense in this game. Like this pass rush and this defensive line can really get after Josh Allen and really make that game uncomfortable. So I'm going to say the Bills, but I would not be surprised at home, Houston on Thursday night, they turn this into a rock fight of a game.
Whew, can't wait. All right, let's get to our locks. Let's get out of here. JP, he's going Seahawks minus 13.5 against the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward's under in that game as well, 189.5. The Falcons Saints under 39.5. The Jets Ravens under 44.5, which I'm going with as well. And then Travion Henderson anytime tutty. I'm going Jags minus 2.5 against the Cards. The Giants Lions over 49.5. That Jets Ravens under. The Seahawks Titans under 40.5. And then Bills minus 5.5 on Thursday Night Football. Kyle went Seahawks as well, 13.5. A Jonathan Taylor anytime touchdown, a Caleb Williams anytime touchdown, and then the Bears money line, surprise, surprise, 2 Bears bets for Kyle. That was our lock segment, sponsored by Cash App. As you heard me say at the top of the show, new Cash App users can use our code to get free money. Use our code PUSHING. Send $5 to a friend within 14 days, and you'll get $10 right in your account. Thank you, Cash App. We'll be back Sunday night, recapping all of week 12. I'll be down in Orlando, which I'll be for Thanksgiving week. So I'll be in your neck of the woods, JP. We'll have to catch up when I'm down there. Are you going to be around?
I think on Thanksgiving, I'm going to be going to Gainesville, actually.
Okay.
So I'll be out of the city by then.
Okay. Well, I will be down there Saturday, so I'll have to hit you up. We'll do so. We'll maybe watch the game Sunday. All right. That's our show for today. Until next time, keep pushing.